Cathedral is one of them, air travels of the executive, and actually purchase. All right, just forget about the distraction. And the purchase of actually properties, for foreign missions outside that obviously did not go the way it should. And I think that we should take this opportunity to actually thank you and celebrate you for the good work that you have done for this country in not only protecting the national purse, but in your case, you're actually saving the national purse. And you must be commended for that. Actually, my sons admire you, and they send their congratulations. Now, the first view I want from you is to do with our foreign mission properties outside, and which has a fiscal implication on our budget. Under President Mahama I, a work was done in basically doing an inventory of all our foreign properties outside, the ones we own outright and the ones we lend or lease. And I think these things will be at the ministry when you get there to see what was done. And that we have a lot of money or properties that we have bought that are very expensive. These things started on Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah when we gained independence, where our foreign mission properties were actually bought in prime areas. And these properties actually cost millions of dollars. Now, over the years, some countries' activities we do there are not as busy as we do elsewhere. So the question is whether some of our properties elsewhere should actually be sold to buy properties, permanent properties, where we are actually very active. And to be able to save money, because we have a lot of litigations out there where we have properties. Mr. Speaker, as leaders are giving time to, this is a very important one, because there's a lot of money that is being spent out there that comes from our budget. I mean, on recurrent expenditure, we spend about $1 billion a year, across 71 or so foreign missions. So some properties we rent, and actually we have properties, because I was part of that work that was done on President Mahama I. Some properties that we have, again, in countries and in prime places that we no longer have an embassy. And the properties are still there, being used by other people. In some cases, we pay property taxes for those properties. And some properties we rent in some countries. We should actually be buying those properties because they go and find. What is your view on that in terms of making sure that we streamline our portfolio across the world and make sure that the properties we have are used efficiently and in places, and they need to be accommodated to make sure that we have adequate accommodation for our people on a mission outside. So I want to take your view on that before I continue. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Majority Leader, for your very profuse words of praise and encouragement. I'm really encouraged. In recent times, it's as though those of us rather who want to protect the public purse, we are becoming public enemies. People want to come after us, and they've left the looters, to enjoy their loot. So I really want to thank you. This is really purchased properties. It will have saved the taxpayer. We will have, in terms of the economics, it makes more sense to own rather than be renting. So on the other suggestion of selling the assets. You know my position on state assets. I'm currently promoting a protection of state assets bill. I've brought it back to the 9th Parliament, and there are a number of colleagues on both sides supporting me in that quest. And so I certainly cannot be seen, selling any diplomatic property. I can make a pledge here that under my watch, no diplomatic property will be sold. They will rather be protected. And I think that if you look at the analysis, we need more. There are too many foreign service officials who are renting and are being harassed by landlords across the world. And we have to look at that. You make a genuine observation about countries where we no longer have diplomatic presence, but we have purchased items. The history is that this occurred during the economic crunch in the 1980s, when the Dr. Obed Asamoah era under President Rawlings, they did a realignment and to cut down on our expenditure on our missions abroad. But even though we do not have diplomatic presence, we can fashion out a way where those assets are not just allowed to rot. They can be put in good shape and rented, and then it raises money, good IGF for the ministry. So it's just about being innovative. So I would rather that we should, because you see, today you don't have diplomatic presence, but tomorrow, the need will arise. The exigencies of the time will ask you to rethink and re-establish diplomatic ties. So I would say let's keep all our assets. We don't have enough. We need to even build on what we have inherited. But certainly we'll look at the report and then see how we acquire more assets and then reduce the annual expenditure on rentals. It's really killing this country, and it's something we have to deal with. In conclusion, I must also point out that we have observed that there are some of the assets that we have even lost. If you go to the UK, for example, poor record keeping has led to some of our diplomatic assets being lost over the years. And it's one area that I want to pursue strongly to recover what has been lost, even if we have to wage, a strong legal battle to take it back from the encroachers. We need to do that. And as I said earlier, as for selling of these assets, please be rest assured that it's not something I believe in.
Let me follow up on this. And I think I do agree with you, though selling is an option, but I know your position on that. Perhaps what we can do, as it's been done in other places, is to rent the property at the prime place to get something somewhere else in the same country that is cheaper, so that the rent we earn from there can be used to pay for that property and actually get a balance out of that and save money. Now, my next question, as part of the follow-up, is actually to do with our trade attachés. You have defense attaché, trade attaché, and all the others. Now, what happens is that these officials come from their various ministries, like defense, like trade, and they are posted to London, US, and other places to help the mission over there to either promote trade or in the defense, the least say about it, the better, about what you go there and do. We know they do very important work there, but because of the sensitive nature of it, I wouldn't, Now, what happens to them? Because they draw the foreign affairs or the mission draws their salaries, goods, and services from your ministry through the national budget. And these attachés also draw theirs from their various ministries. Now, when they get to London or US, they come under your mission over there. And then many of times they are not looked after properly. in terms of looking for a place to stay and all that, or they don't even have adequate budget, like you make provision for all that. So I think in the future going forward, we should look at how we can work together to make sure that the people we sent out there, if they don't belong to your mission and they are coming from elsewhere, they are able to fuse them together to make sure that they have adequate resources to do the very important work that will support you as being the ambassador out there to bring investment and trade and all that home. This you can take as an advice. The third one, and that will be my final one, is to do with, as you mentioned, and His Excellency the President. I'm very glad he had made that he's going to take the African continental trade under, his own leadership. The headquarters of the African continental trade sit here. We have done agreements, various agreements that we've signed around the world, but we don't actually prepare, especially in terms of the diplomacy side of things. So we go and sign all these agreements that in the end doesn't benefit us, but it benefits the people who signed the agreement with. AGOA is one example. African continental free trade as building themselves up to be able to take advantage. But we have been slow at it because the diplomacy has also been slow. The trade side is there, but the diplomacy should lead everything else. We have some African countries around us, especially our neighbors, who have moved from democracy to military rule after their ratification. Some have recently left ECOWAS, which means that relationship with them needs to be re-energized, and that requires some foreign diplomacy, and that is by yourself when you get the nod, not if. So I want to know from you how you are going to make us a leader through trade diplomacy on the African continent, through the Pan-Africanism that we talk about and the development of Africa. We do about 2 or 3% of trade among ourselves. We have now created a single market, and that single market requires diplomacy to nurture it before the trade actually comes in. So I want to know your view on that, in how you promote the trade diplomacy to be able to feed into this, so we can actually take advantage of having the headquarters of the African Continental Free Trade here and lead it to make sure that we build trade. And the problems we have in this country, debt is swallowing us, Ghana is almost broke and all that. These are some of the things that we need to do, including what is it called, all the other things that we plan to do in 24-hour economy and all that, for us to be able to grow our economy again. But I should end by again congratulating you. God bless you. I know you do a fantastic job, and I know that the international tentacles of ORA will still keep you on the ORA job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ricketts Hagan. And let me state that I've been really impressed with your lecture. It was not a question, it was a lecture. And I'll make a special appeal to His Excellency the President that when we are putting together the Ministerial Advisory, if you wouldn't mind serving on the board, I would like you to be close to me, so that as a country, if you look at how we are struggling currently economically, then if you consider other factors, the ILO, for example, and the IOM have all confirmed that in 2023 we saw the highest rate of deaths on the Mediterranean. Young Africans who crossing over to Europe are dying, about 150,000. And those numbers are, according to the experts, even conservative estimates, because there are many who die and they are not even detected. You know, so we really have to prioritize trade diplomacy. And that's why in the NDC manifesto, we have said that we will make that a priority. There are many of our missions without trade attaches. We have said that we will send them and occupy those positions. But most importantly, we will also retrain them, build capacity. And then earlier I talked about KPIs. They will also be given clear targets. So you are not just posted, you know, and we don't know what you are bringing back home, what we are getting from you. Many people have not averted their mind to the inward-looking policies that we are witnessing now on the global arena. If you take, for example, the recent Donald Trump executive orders, if you begin to quantify the impact on our continent, the last time I was engaging officials of the WHO, in terms of even the Global Fund, which has been a major player so far as our health priorities are concerned. The analysis showed that the WHO will lose about $450 to $500 million every year. If every month, I think I was told, if this executive order remains in force. So what that means is that we can no longer continue to be relying on handouts and aid from other countries. We must really take our destinies into our own hands and forge a path that is self-reliant, that will really lift our people out of poverty. And that is where this trade diplomacy comes in. And the literature is clear that over the decades, aid hasn't worked. What we really must promote is trade. Trade, not aid. So these trade attaches will now take a very serious look at it, build capacity, make sure that there are clear KPIs, and within the larger ambit of economic diplomacy, where in our manifesto we talk about formulating a blueprint for the first time in our country's history. We will do all of that with clear targets so that trade diplomacy will work for our people, will help to improve the living conditions of our people and create jobs for our people.
Thank you very much. It's now the turn of Minority Leader.
Honorable nominee, you took the leave of chair to make some preliminary observation, largely on my press conference, and referred to how you felt about it and how your wife felt about it. I think Chairman largely addressed the issue in another way, which was acceptable to me, because we're all having our own challenges that we couldn't have communicated. But I think the effect of my political statement was to the effect that our side had no proper understanding of yesterday's arrangement. However, let me unconditionally apologize to your wife for how my press statement conference came about. I mean, how she felt about it. I mean, I'll feel bad if somebody said something about my own wife, and it's fair. All right, these are not ego matters. So I'm sorry to your dear wife, and how my press conference was carried out, you felt. I also say sorry to you. I would have utmost respect for you. I will be the last person to run you down. Okay? So I'm sorry. And I'm sorry to your wife one more time. Is that okay?
Yeah, very okay, and we are grateful. Thank you very much.
Very well. That's settled. You have expressed concern about the state of the public purse, the state of the economy, and the need for us as public officers to be mindful of costs. Can you, without prejudice, assure the nation that true to those values you hold dear, you will to fly economy and nothing more?
In my private capacity, when I'm traveling, I fly business economy because of the state of the economy. I am happy to do that, and if I can top up with my own resources, as I have been doing already, my private travels, I do travel business, not first class, business. I'm happy to do that. But as I said earlier, in this discussion, we must be more nuanced about it. I believe we can even achieve more savings with the size of delegations, with frequency of travels, with even the kind of airlines,
Please,
that we use.
Honorable nominee, you know, in the past, this whole perception that leader keeps nominees for a long time. I would try to be very specific. So limit yourself as well so that you don't create more room for follow-ups, which would make your guests uncomfortable and your party members may think I have some personal agenda. So please pay attention and let's have a good conversation. So just to rephrase it, would you want to take a personal decision to fly economy, even if government policy is for you to fly business?
I don't see what that achieves. It's totally unnecessary. I will save costs on travels. Other mechanisms. I'll watch the size of delegation. I'll make sure that there are many ways that we can save money, and those are the matters I'll pursue, and we will save even more money for the country. I really don't see where this economy discussion is going to.
You have become aware that the President of the Republic, our President, recently traveled to Gambia, and the Republic of Senegal by using his brother's private jets. You become aware of that, correct?
Yes.
You are aware you become aware of that, correct?
Yes.
You are aware that as public servants, we are measured by certain standards, which standards you have a strong view on. do you think that although there is no direct cost on the state, it is inappropriate for the President of the Republic to be flying on official duties with his brother's private jet?
I have long advocated for the need for Ghana to have a presidential travel policy. And I've said that even in cabinet, it's a matter that I will pursue. And so the ideal situation, if we have a presidential travel policy, in some countries they've even, passed them, enacted them into law, where there are clear guidelines and the do's and don'ts. But now, it doesn't exist. And any day, the good people of Ghana will go for a free, brother trip as compared to 20,000 euros an hour chartered jet where the Ghanaian taxpayer suffers.
So you agree with me that though the state did not pay for the president's travel by use of his brother's private jet, it costs his brother money to fund the trip of his brother to Senegal and the Gambia? You agree with me?
Air travel comes with costs, aviation fuel, landing rights, all kinds of fees you have to pay. So yes, it definitely comes at some cost.
In view of that, it is inappropriate for a brother to bear the cost of the president's travel. You'd agree with me that it's inappropriate, given the circumstances.
If you can clarify your question, I don't see why you say it's inappropriate.
No. I will clarify.
Honorable members, the question is whether it is inappropriate for a brother to sponsor a trip